So again, thank you so much for joining us, for joining this webinar. My name is Dr. Vahab, and I'm program leader of Masters in Cybersecurity, Digital Forensic, and Crime Analysis in European Forensic Institutes. So as we promised today, we got Shashanko Roy, our guest speaker, and currently he is the Director of Cybersecurity Services for Big Four audit firm. So he has more than 20 years of experiences in cybersecurity. And the topic that he's going to talk about is for today is cybersecurity and financial fraud, specifically an evolving model. So we may have 5 to 10 minutes of Q&A at the end of this session. So if you got any doubts or questions, for sure you can just let us know. Maybe if you like, you can just open your mic if you are able to do such things at the end of the session, or you can just type your question through the chat box. And I'm going to ask this question or pass this question to Shashanko at the end of this presentation. So again, thank you so much, and everything back to you, Shashanko. So all yours. You can go ahead and start your basically presentation, sharing your presentation file.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Vahab. It's an honor to be here, and I know it might be good evening for most of you, and good afternoon for people who are joining us from US, and good morning for people, or good night for people who might be in Asia joining us. Thanks a lot for joining us today. So let me very quickly share my screen and start with an introduction. Do let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I can see your screen, Shashanko.
So let me put it in PowerPoint mode. And let me, so you guys can see it in full screen now.
It's side by side, to be honest. So it's kind of presenting side by side.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go ahead and fix that. Let me check if I can resume the slideshow. Let me stop sharing, and then let me resume the slideshow, and then go ahead and share once again. So let me now share my screen and check if it works perfectly for all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Now, can you see my screen now better?
It's not fully shared or fully presented, so we can see your slides exactly.
No, it's not fully there, so give me a minute. So let me again stop sharing and start sharing. Okay, so let me now share my screen. Right, Now does it bring it
Yes,
into
that's
full
perfect.
screen
Yeah,
mode for you?
that's a full, exactly. That's a full screen. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. So let us go ahead and get started. Let me first introduce the topic today. Today's topic is quite unconventional because what I would be talking today, as I was discussing earlier with Dr. Wahab, is something that currently does not exist in most financial institutions. What we are going to talk about today is something that we would see 5 years, 8 years, 10 years down the line being completely adopted in enterprises. And the reason I say that is because currently the way we look at a financial fraud is from compliance point of view, and cybersecurity team has very limited visibility and very limited access to the activities that either the financial crime or the financial fraud teams execute in most financial organizations. What I'm talking about today and what I'm presenting today as a part of this session is an evolving model where ultimately we would see some kind of an integration between the cybersecurity technologies and the financial fraud technologies, the solutions, the risk management methodologies, the taxonomies that are being used in both the domains, and an integrated model where a central environment or a central system would go ahead and basically, for most banks or for most financial organizations, create a very robust mechanism to not only detect on a timely basis any kind of financial fraud, but also act as a preventive measure to prevent financial frauds and crimes from happening. So, having said that, very quick introduction to myself. As Dr. Wahab said, I have been in the industry for 20 plus years, worked for a big four audit firm as a cybersecurity director, based out of US in the East Coast. And these are some of my qualifications that I've been working on. I would say one thing I had to do was, given the amount of space I had on a single slide, I had to cut my certifications down, because one fun aspect of being in cybersecurity is each year new technologies come in, and each year we have to keep learning, right? So this is a continuous journey for us where we have been trying to adopt to newer generation technologies, with cloud and AI ML being at the focus in the past couple of years. So very quickly, I would like to start with a few definitions, right? These definitions are important for us to basically lay the foundation of this discussion and this talk today. Because to start with, it is always good to understand that how do financial organizations look at financial crime. See, based on the target operating model of a financial organization, the moment there is the conversation of financial crime, we are talking about, or it is assumed that we are talking about AML, anti-money laundering. So financial crime has generally meant nothing but money laundering and a few other criminal transgressions, including bribery, tax evasions, and things like that. And these are seen as compliance issues. Typically, in organizations, as I was talking about target operating models, there is a compliance team being set up, right? This compliance team is comprised of certified forensic, investigators, certified, AIML specialists, uh, certified individuals who are qualified to basically identify a financial crime and follow it through its entire life cycle. Now, the challenge that I would talk about is basically all of these are very strongly governed industry. As we know, financial sector is very strongly governed industry, which is pretty much required, and there are regulators who keep a very strong eye on the type of controls being implemented by a financial institute when it comes to uh, you know things like money laundering, right? How do you control? What measures do you implement so that what we call as the bad money or the dirty money does not come back into the system. On the same lines, if we think of what would we call as a financial fraud? Now, this traditionally, the way it has been defined is any kind of forgery, especially now that we guys have got introduced to uh, concepts like digital checks, right? Or we know through AI and ML based systems, it is now pretty much possible for anybody uh, to generate a signature which is exactly the same as a signature of an individual. The only difference being these signatures are generated by a machine instead of a human being, right? So the possibility of these signatures being detected by someone as fake signatures are extremely low. So when we are talking about crimes, right, or we knew that financial crime was AML, but financial fraud traditionally means such forgery. It means someone also manipulating the book of accounts to take out some money. Uh, it also involves internal threats. Internal threats, it might be through a disgruntled employee in a bank wanting to siphon off some money, right? Insider threats or involving deception. All of these were financial frauds. We have been exposed to many more financial frauds in the past 10 years, where I'm sure many of you have heard about, banking loans, where loans were being taken by people um, in, I would say, collusion with some people from banking officers as well, in a way that they get approvals necessary and then they don't have money to pay off those loans, and they just vanish, right? In some cases, we have seen other financial frauds where people come with someone else's identity, right, and create a bank account, right? That bank account is then used for different types of frauds. But in general, financial frauds, if we look at the structure of it, structurally in today's sense, banking sector, financial fraud refers to digital frauds. We are talking about frauds which are happening uh, where people can still do things online. They can present checks which are fake online. They create accounts which can be accessed online. They overtake someone's account by guessing their password or stealing their password or buying their password, right? Again, a terminology used as financial fraud. So now we have categorized uh, crime, we have categorized financial fraud, and the third, which we are moving into, which is my area of specialization, cybersecurity, where we are talking about cybersecurity. Incident for a financial organization is any event that have an impact, for them to respond to it or recover from it. And this is something where I'm going to spend most of the time that I would speak today, because I would like to give a story, narrate a story in the same flow, and do let me know if you could relate to the story, right? There is an presence of dark web. We all know there is a presence of dark web. We can all access dark web. Not, of course, we can't reach there through Google. There are ways of searching for dark web markets. We have to create accounts. We log in there. And what started happening very recently is we might be surprised to know that our credit card information is getting sold there, or our username or password for our bank account, which we use, is getting sold there. So how is it getting sold there? Someone was able to use some kind of password cracking mechanism through which they successfully cracked our password, and they don't want to log in and transfer any amount from our account or do anything. They go to the dark web and they try to sell our credentials. Now, there are definite buyers for those credentials, right? There are buyers who may buy those credentials, log in with those credentials, confirm they work, pay, and then they would try to see how much money you have in your account. Let's say they figure out that you have $5,000 at this point in time in your checking accounts. They would wait for another 15 days for amount to get transferred into your account, right? Let us assume that on 15th of the month, there is a $10,000 that comes in as your salary. Now they have $15,000. They may go ahead and take that amount out, right? When we say that they may take that amount out, right, they may transfer it to one of the fake accounts which they might have created. They would naturally do that so that, even if someone traces back to which account this money was transferred, it would be for a person who might actually already be dead 5 years back. Or it might have been created using the identity card of an individual who might have lost his identity card somewhere, right? Now, the point that I'm trying to make here is very critical. The point here is that definition that we were trying to get to, that this is a financial fraud, this is a financial crime, and this is a cybersecurity incident, that line is blurring, and it is blurring very fast. It is, as in this example that I just quoted, it is extremely difficult to figure out whether this is a cybersecurity incident. This definitely is a cybersecurity incident because there is a cybersecurity component to it. Someone's password was cracked, it was sold in the dark web, someone purchased those credentials, and it is definitely a digital cybersecurity incident for the bank, right? Because bank now has to, in some way, compensate for this cybersecurity incident to the individual. But at the same time, is this a financial fraud? And the answer to that question is yes, because the money actually went into a fake account. It was transferred into an account for which it is difficult to find the origin of. And this is exactly how traditionally we define a financial fraud being conducted. And then that money was taken out, that $15,000 was taken out by someone in cash. Now, I'm trying to play very, very conservative with my numbers, but it might not be $15,000. It might actually be a $1.5 million, which is getting taken out in cash from some account. Now, whoever took this money out in cash needs to have a way for him to pump that money back into the system, right? And they would follow the same old traditional path of money laundering, which I would talk about more of how it gets done, uh, in terms of placing the money, layering, and then transferring the money. And the point is, ultimately, we see an integration between cybersecurity incidents. We see how frauds are committed through or emerging out of a cybersecurity incident, and then cyber crimes are basically carried out, which means financial crimes, financial frauds, and cybersecurity incidents are all interrelated together in today's digital world of financial uh, management systems. So every bank is now digital. I don't think there are many banks who do not have a digitized way of doing banking operations. Every financial institution, every mortgage organization, every insurance company. So all of the pillars within financial sector now have this challenge of a cybersecurity incident resulting in a financial fraud and ultimately culminating into a or giving birth to a financial crime. Once we set this context up in our story, I would like to spend some time very slowly to talk about different types of cyber attacks, right? By definition, we know anything that we use to collect or disrupt or deny or degrade or destroy information system resources is a cyber attack. But what might be the categories of cyber attacks? Password cracking could be a cyber attack. Exploiting vulnerabilities in an application. As we know, there cannot be any organization or any business which is not present on the internet today. What I mean by that is, even if I can think of buying my glasses, my first choice might be to open a web page of some kind and try to, check online availability of glasses, do some research on the latest designs, do some research on the cost, and then maybe place an order. For financial sector also, that is the truth. What is happening is, even if I have to purchase insurance, I would like to go to some kind of a website, do some research, and place my order. But what if that website has vulnerabilities? Vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting, where someone can basically exfiltrate some kind of data from the backend, or a SQL injection attack where they can offload the entire database, right, from the browser itself. Now, all of those will fall under cyber attacks. Someone cracking passwords for other users is a perfect example of cyber attack. Someone doing a phishing attack where I send an email to you saying that just click on this link, log into your you know accounts, and the moment you log into your account, you get $50 from us, right? You try to click on that link, you type in your username and password, there is an attachment, or there is a page you go to that has recorded your username and password, right? And your credentials are now stolen. There might be an email that you get saying that please download this patch from Microsoft urgently because Microsoft has identified that your system to be weak or vulnerable. You click on it and it installs some kind of a backdoor on your laptop. Now, all of these are cyber attacks. And as we said, the ultimate goal has to be thought of, that why would someone do a cyber attack? He would do to basically then convert the outcome of that cyber attack into a financial fraud, or even committing a financial crime, right? If we are trying to think through this, and we think about what is the industry side of all these frauds and financial crimes, it is $1 trillion industry at this point in time. Just talking about setting up AML controls, if you talk about any bank, they spend millions of dollars. As a matter of fact, billions of dollars are spent annually on anti-money laundering controls alone, right? If we are talking about cyber attacks, it has been identified that roughly $1 billion worth of money is being lost every year just to cybersecurity attacks. If you would recall, in the past 5 years, ransomware attacks have become so popular in the financial sector that it locks the account, it locks the data of the organizations, and then people ask for ransom. And organizations have to pay a certain amount of ransom to get themselves out of the situation, get their data back, get their access back, right? It is estimated that just by locking the data of organizations or locking people out through critical systems, billions of dollars are being generated by these ransomware, I would say executioners. Now, the question that comes in is, what do organizations do to basically stop money laundering? And by stop, I mean prevent money laundering kind of attacks. What do organizations do to basically protect their networks, protect their endpoints, their laptops, their desktops, mobile phones for people that they use to do transactions? Before we go there, let's spend a couple of minutes to understand that what do people do with dirty money? We say it's a layered approach, right? People, number one, place them in stage one. That is, people go ahead and in small amounts they transfer the money or place the money in an account. Like, let's say $10,000 is more or less the threshold, right? So they would basically do a deposit of $9,000 every day or three times in a day into the same account, a process called smurfing. Now, that is how slowly that cash, which they have got through illegal ways, start getting into bank accounts. And then what is being done is this is sent through a circle of layering. This money is sent through a circle of layering, which means we typically start transferring that money multiple times into organizations. Sometimes we start paying that as services, like person X came and cleaned my house. So for that service, I paid him $18,000, right? And invoices are being generated which are fake. We transfer money and they transfer it multiple times so that it gets difficult to understand from which account the money transfer began and which account it went to. In the end, with that money, the integration stage is achieved where that money is used then to basically buying goods and services, investing in real estates, business ventures, and that money also sometimes get paid to employees who do not exist, right? In a way, and there is very, very formal taxation system that is followed and taxes are being paid so that that money becomes legitimate. This money is generated at the source through frauds, like crimes, frauds. This money is generated through drugs. This money is being generated through terrorism. And the question is, how do I take this money, which is dirty money, and legalize it? Now, what is the responsibility of a financial organization? A financial organization's responsibility is to go ahead and stop someone from achieving this, right? So what do they do? And this is the expectation from regulators, that every financial institute goes ahead and sets up a compliance team, that sets up a compliance officer, an anti-money laundering officer. And that officer is responsible for setting up controls or measures in the bank that has the ability to detect money laundering or any kind of I would say, effort towards it. They prevent it, they detect it, they respond to it, and they stop money laundering from happening. Now, if we think about technologies, let's say, what would an organization do technically to stop this kind of activities? They would try to identify the countries from which these activities are executed. There are known countries, known geographies from where we want to, if there is an initiation of this type of an activity, we can identify that, right? And then we want also to make sure that we do real-time tracking of such transactions. As I was saying, that let us assume that in three times a day, I go ahead and I deposit $9,000. We need some kind of real-time transaction monitoring ability, right? That monitors such transactions. Should not be that difficult, right? That identifies and flags it, that Shashanko Roy or person X did these transactions, 30 transactions in the past 10 days or in the past 30 days of $9,000 by bringing in cash money, right? But the challenge is the scale. There are, hundreds of thousands of accounts that banks and financial institutions have. For them to detect that manually through the logs is not possible. They need some kind of a automated mechanism for tracking IP addresses. They need a AI/ML based activity tracking mechanism. They need a logging and monitoring mechanism that can flag at the right time any activity which they consider suspicious and prevent those activities, stop those in real time. And for all of these, we need an operations center that has very strong presence of technology and the same technologies which are traditionally being used in our security operations center for past many years by the cybersecurity team need to be brought in and be seen here by integrating the operations, right? If you think about it, when financial organizations implement these technology solutions so that they are flagged at the right time, any kind of suspicious activity, what then they do is they establish governance process. They develop a framework that they would follow, right? And they get audited by regulators on this. On the same lines, very quickly, if we talk about financial frauds, account takeovers, we spoke about them, someone trying to log in from somewhere else, right? Let us assume that I have an account here in US and someone is trying to log in to that account from Sri Lanka, right? Now, there that should be immediately identified by my logging and monitoring system as something where the IP address tracking is being implemented and something is not right. There should be a message sent to my phone saying that, are you in Sri Lanka trying to log in from Sri Lanka because we have identified that kind of activity on your account, right? When new accounts get created, there has to be a mechanism that the documents which are submitted for an individual, there has to be an automated verification process even before we go ahead and create those new accounts, right? Fraudulent checks, there has to be tools, technologies being implemented to detect such kind of frauds. We need to have automated mechanism to identify loan frauds, identify any individual who has submitted documents which are not original, right? And for all of these, again, the cybersecurity tools and technologies which have been implemented in the cyber security operations center need to be brought in and integrated to detect financial frauds. What we are trying to say is that technologies that are currently being used for secure mobility, advanced threat protection, identity and access management, where we do proofing, identity proofing of users, right? That no user get their access without we look at their on ground presence. We look at their uh, actual physical presence, right? We verify their documentation that they have submitted before their digital access gets created. Network security, web security, advanced firewalls, right? Uh, any kind of, I would say, brute force attack or DOS attack being blocked. There are tools and techniques which already exist in the SOC, right? What is missing is basically a single system where we can see all of that together. And a perfect example was the Carbanak attack, where a very easy, I would say, mechanism was followed where emails were sent to targeted financial, uh, organizations, I would say employees. When they downloaded the attachment, a malware got installed on their system. Let us, on the basis of past 30 minutes of my talking, in our mind create a segregation that this is a cybercrime. Someone has sent a malware. People downloaded it within the bank. It was a spear phishing because people were targeted. Who would be targeted was very clear. Who that email will be sent was very clear from those groups. The moment the backdoor got executed, it started recording the screens. It started recording the keypads. It started logging the keys. And then it started inflating the accounts. Like if my account has $1,000, it would basically inflate it to $10,000 and it will take out the $9,000. And the way it would take out the $9,000 was very interesting because it programmed the ATMs to dispense that $9,000. And they had sent someone on those ATMs on a predefined time that 12 p.m. at night, be at this ATM's address. It will dispense out $9,000 collected. They collected billions of dollars that way. Looking at this chart on the right, you can imagine that almost across continents, this uh, you know type of attack succeeded, and there was a use case that this attack succeeded. Billions of dollars collected by these groups, and what would they do with this cash? They would then try to again send that cash through that cyber crime, money laundering cycle of somehow trying to make this money legitimate, right? By placing it, by layering it, and by making it legal. What basically are we saying here is the countermeasures where we say know your customers, authenticate them every time, monitor their transactions. If you see any kind of suspicious activity, immediately respond to that incident. We can only do that effectively if in the future we establish an integrated operations model where we do not consider the compliance team taking care of anti-money laundering activities or operations separate from the security operations center, from the cybersecurity point of view, and the fraud teams in banks somehow create a framework where the security operations center, the fraud operations center, and the anti-money laundering operations center work together, and they use similar taxonomy, similar frameworks, similar risk assessment methodologies, and they all come up with a unified way of implementing cloud-based. The reason I mention here cloud is we may have already realized it, or we might not have realized it, but let me again mention it. 5 years from now, the amount of data that we would need to churn and analyze and do modeling on, we will not be able to do it in any data center. We have to do it on cloud, right? So it's an investment of future where data analytics, data lakes will be created for data analytics being conducted on those data lakes on cloud. And with a unified operations, in 5 years from now, we will see a situation where not only are these, money laundering, I would say, activities get detected in a timely way, but they will also get prevented. So, do financial organizations currently have a integrated model? No. This is a kind of a proposal. This is a kind of a thought that I believe organizations I see already have started going for it. They have started investing in it. They have started doing it in phases, but an integrated operations model between Security Operations Center for Cybersecurity, financial fraud, and cybercrime. Financial crime is what we would see. And that would result in a major disruption to regulatory bodies as well, because they would need to adopt to the way they understand financial crime versus a cybersecurity attack versus a financial fraud, right? So I would basically stop here because this was what I wanted to bring here and have a discussion on. I would like to get any questions that you guys may have on the topic that I discussed and presented today. And thank you so much for patiently listening this far to me.
Yeah, thank you so much again, Shashanko, for your great presentation. So it was really interesting to get to know this kind of specific topic that you have done the presentation for today. So basically, if I need to quickly summarize what you mentioned, so basically you discussed about financial crime, financial fraud, and cybersecurity incident, and later on you discussed about anti money laundering, and you just mentioned about how we are able to understand the difference between these couple of concepts, and later on you move on to giving us kind of understanding about money laundering stages or cycle, and you move on to key internal controls, as well as last but not least, integrating some sort of capabilities to help us to identify some sort of money laundering. So again, it was very interesting, and thank you so much for that. So I can see we got 2 questions at the moment, but for sure, any participant, if you got more questions, so go ahead and ask any question you would like to ask from Shashanko in this case. So let's start with the first question coming from Floring. So Floring asking, can you move on to slide number 9? Because Floring was looking for this information that probably appear on slide number 9. So I don't know which one Floring is referring to. So probably Shashanko, you could be aware of the slide number, which is number 9. Is that 9th one or?
This should be slide 9.
All right. So Floring, if you got any more doubts or question, you can just ask Shashanko or through, kind of question and answer. Please go ahead and type your question or anything relevant to slide number 9. Again, Floring asked the other question, said that which is the international or European legislation for AML? Are you aware of it, Shashanko? Yeah. Any specific international/European legislation for AML?
There is absolutely anti-money laundering legislations and acts in every country of this world. So basically, what has happened over the past few years is it was identified to be not just a single country challenge, but a global challenge, because this money often was transferred knowingly across borders, right? And the reason for doing that was to basically bring in that layer of obscurity when that money was being siphoned off or being transferred from I would say gray markets into real money. So every country has its own anti-money laundering laws, and basically Europe has very, very strong anti-money laundering laws, typically called as AML laws. And as far as US and countries like India go, the regulators typically are either the Fed or like the Reserve Bank of India, in case of India, that are the biggest regulators. Every country and every financial institution has to basically get a license from the regulators, and they are subject to anti-money laundering laws. So you can look up the anti-money laundering law in UK or in Europe, and you would see your country's anti-money laundering law.
All right, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much, Shashanko. So there's another question from Ankit asking, is it really possible to combine SOC and financial fraud centers together, like integrating these two things as you suggested? So he's saying that, is that possible to be happen in reality?
So Ankit, believe me or not, organizations have started doing that, right? Where the challenge they are currently facing is basically defining the roles and responsibilities. The roles and responsibilities of SOC, as we know, are very different than AML operations teams. The second challenge is to basically have regulators understand, because they are not used to integrated model. So do organizations currently have integrated model? The answer is no. But have they already started moving towards an integrated model in a phased approach? Yes. And would it really happen in the next 5 years? Absolutely. That is the way to go, that we would see the Security Operations Center and the anti-money laundering operations centers being integrated in the next 5 to 10 years for almost all financial organizations to effectively control these frauds and anti-money laundering.
Thank you so much, Shashanko, and everyone for joining us. So it was a great webinar. So if you got any doubts or questions, so probably you can just, I believe, Google Shashanko or myself, and you can see our contacts, because I believe we are on LinkedIn, and you can just have a kind of conversation if you got any doubts or questions relevant to cybersecurity or money laundering or any specific topics that we discussed today. So again, thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you next time. So take care, enjoy your day and night. Thank you, and bye now.